Hello, YouTube community. This is MM19. Want to let you know that this is my first YouTube video, and I've been watching YouTube videos for about 3 to 4 years now, and I've really enjoyed them. It's been fun, and even though I'm new to making YouTube videos regarding silver and gold. I'm not new to silver and gold. Matter of fact, I've been collecting coins, gold and silver coins, since 1992, 1993. And back in my day, it wasn't called stacking, or I didn't know it to be stacking. We all literally coined the word, I guess you could say, collecting coins back in those days. Okay, and in 1993, I just got married, and I had bought a few 10th ounce gold coins and a couple of silver coins rounds back in that time. And at the time, I didn't know exactly how those investments that I made back then would actually pay off later on. But I'll get back to that later. Right now, what I want to share with you all is a story, okay? And this is a real story. It's my life, and I want to share with you how I chose stock over gold and silver, and how I lost. How I lost big. Literally, I lost almost every dime that I had, okay? And I'll explain exactly how I did that. But back in 2000. I had just started working for a telecom company, one of the largest telecom companies in the United States. Life was good, great job, and it wasn't long when I got there where there was some ruckus going on in the stock market. Okay, and stock started to fall. There was the big Enron scandal where they were cooking the books and they had filed bankruptcy and stuff like that. But it was just overall during that time there was a lot of big or high price stock or companies that were going bankrupt or nearly bankrupt, that were on. You could literally buy them as penny stock, okay? And if you had a job during that time, if you had savings, it looked like an opportunity to really make a killing and maybe even make some money, you know. So. At that time, I had reached out to a couple of gold companies, and I was looking to invest in companies that would allow you to invest a small amount, you control a large amount, or you could invest directly gold. And I think during that time, it was maybe $300 or $400 an ounce for gold, and maybe somewhere between 5 to 8 ounces, $5 to $8 per ounce for silver. But long story short, I met a coworker of mine who was deep into stock, into the stock market, and I was sharing with him some of my ideas. I was like, "Hey, man, let's do this gold thing." He was like, "No, I'm into the stock." And at the time, I didn't know a lot about stock. I had only collected silver and gold coins at the time. But after talking with him, he was an older guy. He seemed like he was very knowledgeable about trading, and he showed me his portfolio and how it was performing, and I was like, okay, this guy might be onto something. It seems interesting. And long story short, I jumped in. You know, literally head first. Took the money that I had and for gold, invested into the stock market. Even though the stock that I was buying through the company through my direct pay, I was putting that into the company stock, and I was also buying company stock through the private market. And some of the companies that were competitors to my company, companies that I had worked with where I felt like they had strong business finances and so on and so forth. And I did a lot of research. I mean, I was a spreadsheet guy, I was a technical guy, an engineer, so I could do all the liquidity ratios and solvency ratios and all these different things, and make sure that what I was investing in, that it was sound. And so that's what I did. I mean, like I said, you had companies that were once trading at $50 a share to $20 a share, trading below 5. I mean, literally in some cases like $1 or $2 a share. And in my mind, I thought, hey, listen, look, if I can get invest in the right stock by doing my research, I could make a killing. I could make enough money to pay off my house, my car, be completely, at least almost debt free at that time, and it was certainly worth the risk. The risk was so at the time it seemed like a magical moment, but I can tell you that the risk seemed so low that I just couldn't not do it, and I did, and it was great. You know, at least initially. I mean, it was fantastic to walk in and open up your trade account, minimize your window, and just watch your ticker symbol and watch your account balance double or quadruple as these phantom ticker spikes would happen. And it was almost like it was seductive. It's like it was testing you or teasing you, like, hey, look, this is what it looks like if you get tenfold on your investment. And watching that in some kind of way, it kind of lulled me into the belief that one of those days that ticker symbol is going to spike tenfold and it's going to stick. And the money that's in my account is really going to be what's available to me at that new price, you know. And in some way, that just stuck in my mind. It made me a believer, right? In even if I was wrong, I felt like I was being smart. I had set up these triggers where if I were to lose 10 or 15% of certain stock, the trigger would kick in, sell on my stock, and at worst I lose 10 to 15% of my investment. I could take my investment, pay off any loans that I had or any loans that I couldn't completely pay off because of the loss. I just refinance them and make a small payment until it was completely paid off. But that was what I had in plan, and it seemed like it was a good idea. I mean, it was just great going from day to day, watching the fluctuations in my account. It was a beautiful thing. Life was great. What can I say, right? But in the end, all that was short-lived. I mean, literally one day I walked into the job, regular day. I get to my floor. There are people that had this weird look on their faces. I mean, there was people looking frustrated, people slamming on desks, people cussing, people in the boss's office screaming and yelling. I didn't know what happened at the time, but I went to one of my coworkers like, hey, what's going on? They was like, hey, man, you know, we filed bankruptcy. I'm like, what? We filed bankruptcy? What do you mean? Right? And I remember our CEO at the times, and if you were to Google large telecom company filed bankruptcy early 2000, I'm sure you can do the research. You'll find out who the long distance carrier is. You'll find out who the CEO was and how he went to jail and how he cooked the books and how they swindled all that money away, right? So basically, yeah, the company had filed bankruptcy literally overnight, okay? And when that stock symbol opened that following morning, it had a Q at the end of the stock symbol. And where I once had tens of thousands of dollars in my account, some of the shares were worth less than 0.0001 cents per share. And they were trading less than a penny in some. Some continue to trade at penny numbers. I mean, when I say penny, I mean literally 5-10 cents a share, and they continue to drop thereafter. After I made a few phone calls later that day, and over time, I realized that that Q meant that your company had filed bankruptcy, and the only people who are still trading were people who really didn't know that they were dealing with a dead stock. Okay, and that was just the first of many bankruptcies that failed in some of the companies that I had invested in. I mean, literally, my investment account had gotten so low that the money it would have cost for me to cash out of the stock just so I could close my account would cost me more than what was in it. So basically, I just let the account dry up and die over time. It took several years, but I was just so literally distraught, kind of worn out by the whole thing, where I just couldn't go and look at it. I was getting books in the mail from the SEC from different companies if I wanted to file suit. I just had too much on my plate just to keep my life alive to even deal with that. But that was a wake-up call for me, and the fact that I had made a choice, and I dove in head first, and it cost me every single dime. I mean, I don't know if any of you ever know what it feels like to be completely broke, not have any savings anymore. I had great credit at the time, never had missed a bill, never been used to not paying or being able to pay any of my expenses. And all the while, my company was laying people off and cutting pay and a lot of stuff like that. So, and when no one's hiring you and you have no business of your own, it's a scary place to be, right? And literally, over the next 7 years, my life was hell, you know. And over those next 7 years, what's funny is that the gold and silver that I had purchased back in 1993 actually came back to save me. Gold continued to rise. Matter of fact, the gold that I abandoned to buy stock went from $300 to $400 an ounce to almost $2,000 an ounce over the next 7+ years. And it sucked to watch that happen because I knew that's where I should have been, and I made another choice. I don't blame anybody but me. It was certainly my fault. I don't blame my coworker. Had I won, I would have been thanking him and kissing his backside. Okay, but I rolled the dice a different way, and I lost, and I paid the piper, and that's okay. But my story here is to say that, you know what, this is what it looks like when you have absolutely nothing. This paper that's right here in front of you on the screen is the only stock certificate that I requested from CMKM Diamonds. It was one of the companies that I invested in that went bankrupt due to fraud. I requested my certificate in case we went to court so I could prove that I was indeed an owner and I would be entitled to something in case there was a lawsuit. Unfortunately, it took several years. It took a while for me to get my certificate. And, by the time the CEO of the company went to court and all this stuff happens, I was just in a different place in life and I had no energy to pursue it. But my point is, if you take a look at this, all it is a piece of paper. And this is what you get stuck with if you roll the dice on things that have no intrinsic value. Okay? This piece of paper is all I got to show for all the thousands of dollars that I put into it. It's great to stick on a wall, great to stick in an album, but you can't do anything with it. There's no other purpose for it other than use it for notebook paper, or maybe even just to have as a talking piece like I'm using it right now. But if you take a look at some of this other stuff right here, this silver that I have right here, had I invested in that as much money as I put into the stock market, my house would be paid off right now. But I didn't. And again, several years I suffered to try and correct the mistake I made, to get my family back in order, get my finances back in order, my credit back in order. And I did that over time. But right now, I'll end it here and I'll explain what happened afterwards next time. All right, thank you, YouTube. Take care.